Okay, it's the start of March, and the stats show that 80% of people have already given up on their New Year's resolution. They've already given up on the person they were trying to become this year. And I was thinking about this quite a lot recently, and how you put short and medium-term goals in place so that you can kind of become your new identity, the person you're trying to become. And I think the mistake a lot of us make, and I've made this before in the past, is, and certainly a lot of the athletes that I've worked with in the past, a lot of the athletes that I've trained with and been around make this mistake, as well as business people, and as well as people in every sphere, that it's natural in this social media age. Every person you follow, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, it used to be Twitter and Facebook, whatever, or YouTube, every person you're following, especially on Instagram, is somebody you're aspiring to be, or something within their life you want that element of their life, whether it's a great car that they're driving, or whether it's the perfect body, or whether it's a faster runner. You're naturally going to follow probably faster runners, somebody who's got the experience in running, in order for them to be able to teach you something about running, or to teach you something about fitness. Maybe they're doing great in business, and you're following, and they've got some tips and advice along the way. Everybody you're following on Instagram is probably people that you're inspired by, and people that you aspire to be. And what you're seeing from their lives on Instagram, and I'm definitely guilty of this, and we'll get onto that in a second, but what you're seeing from their lives is the highlights. You're seeing the best parts of their life. So first of all, you're aspiring to be them, so they're probably ahead of you in life in some element, and then you're seeing the absolute best of what they want to show you. And therefore, when you're kind of coming into March, and you're trying to kind of keep these habits going, you're trying to get the new sort of, every day you're trying to hit the gym, every day you're trying to kind of get out there and do an easy run, a recovery run, an interval session, a long run, you're trying to better yourself, you're trying to work on yourself and become a better human in some way, shape or form, whether that's fitness, whether it's business, whether it's your career, whatever it is you're trying to get better at. And then all along, you're comparing yourself against people you aspire to be, but the very best of their lives. Then it can become quite intimidating, and it can get you down. And no wonder so many people are depressed. No wonder so many people are sad, because they're comparing themselves. Comparison is the thief of joy. And we've been set up in this social media age to compare ourselves against, it's not an unachievable level of beauty, an unachievable level of fitness, an unachievable level of wealth. It's not unachievable. But if we're constantly bombarded by who we're trying to achieve and who we're trying to become, but the highlights of their lives, then it's not even achievable 100% of the time for those people, if you get what I mean. If I'm looking up to LeBron James and I want to be a basketball player like LeBron James, and I'm looking at his highlight reel, I'm not looking at the 99% of the time that he's in the gym, he's in ice baths, he's in recovery, he's on the physio table. I do exactly the same myself. And when I look at my Instagram now, and this is just real talk, it's kind of like you look at it and you will see me crossing the finish line of a race first. You won't see me come in sort of like having a bad race or dropping out after 10K of a marathon and, holding my hamstring because I've just pulled my hamstring, and then having to go through the rehabilitation, the prehabilitation, and then get some kind of strength and then go again. You're not going to see that. You're going to see me crossing the tape. You're going to see if you go to my Instagram, what I will often do, and this is what you need to do if you're a sponsored athlete, is they want you to appear in their apparel, their clothing, their shoes. And therefore, you have to hire photographers, or they will send photographers, and they will recreate your training session, or ideally follow your training session, and take hundreds, if not thousands of images. I've come back from a training session where there's 10,000 images, and I've got to go through with the photographer and pick the best ones. And I think, right, I'm really happy with that. It makes me kind of look in the shape that I want to look at the moment. I'm trying to dial it in towards a race, and that's exactly what I'm aiming for. And maybe, like, my aspiration would be, I want to look like Steve Prefontaine when he's coming around the bend and he's got 300 meters to go in a 1,500 meters, or that kind of athlete, And so you're only going to put out of 10,000 images. I'm probably going to put out 5 or 10 images from that photo shoot that is recreating a training session. Or, as I say, ideally the photographer and videographer is following the training session, so it's as real as it actually gets. But what I'm trying to say is you're only picking out the very best. So I'm only picking out the 0.1% of the photos that I feel good about. Is that right? I don't know, but it's essentially what everybody does, yeah? And then that represents the brand, because that helps your sponsor, because your sponsor is then getting somebody who looks in peak condition. They look as fit as they possibly can be, and they're training towards an event, and that's kind of recreated, and maybe underneath you'd post a training session. So there's some information there that draws people in and shows them, this is what I've just done, 10 times 5 minutes, up my favorite mountain, and there's some images from it. And then the person looking at that thinks, wow, Jesus, that guy's doing a training session, and he looks great doing it, and he's in shape, he's got his top off, etc., low body fat percentage. I don't put out there the times that I'm on the physio bed and I'm having intrusive therapy to try and fix an Achilles ligament, Achilles tendon, sorry. I don't put out that where you're kind of agonizingly, literally gripping the bed, you're sweating so much that the bed is wet through, and there's somebody trying to fix your Achilles. I think there's none of that on there. It's only the highlight reel. So don't compare yourself to people. Because it's, again, comparison is the thief of joy. You are you against you. And so if you're getting better, if you're constantly getting better and you're adding that 1% every day, just think about what you could be within the next 10 days. If you can just get out there and run 5 times every other day, or go to the gym 5 times. You know, I'd always say try to do something every single day and don't break that chain. And the further and further and further you can go, the amount of days, consecutive days on a row you can go without breaking that chain. I don't mean go out and run 20 miles every day. I mean, just go out for a walk. Just go out for a walk for 30 minutes, but at least you're not breaking the chain. And the next day, maybe you run for 20 minutes. Next day after that, maybe you run for 30 minutes. Next day after that, maybe you do 10 times 1 minute, a bit faster than usual. But you don't break the chain. It's all about the habits. The habits are what make you accumulate into you being something that you're currently not, a better version of yourself. And it's very easy to focus on the big picture, and the big picture will always be there on Instagram, who you're comparing yourself against. But you focus on you focus on building habits. Again, I see this a lot, but it's like just disappear for a month, disappear for a year, come back stronger. You don't need to be posting to social media. You don't need to be kind of like constantly on and comparing yourself against other people. The best times in my life when I've moved forward mentally and spiritually is when I've taken myself out of society completely, and I've gone cycle touring, or I've gone into the Himalayas. I've just been hiking on my own for 100 days. Like literally months on end hiking just to small tea houses and having small interactions. I remember once in Malaysia and just trying to think, when was the last time I had a conversation with a person who wasn't selling me food or a bottle of water or something like that in a shop? And it was something like 5-6 weeks. I hadn't had interaction, had no phone. And those are the times when I've grown the most, when I just take myself away from the internet, take myself away from society, and just get out there. And I'm not saying that that's available to anybody, but if you think right now, when was the last time that you spent 3 days alone? Maybe when you're ill, if you're not in a relationship, maybe when you're ill, that you would spend 72 hours alone, but it's not really you alone, it's you trying to get over an illness. So being alone, you can what happens is you get to the big questions. You stop kind of getting involved in, okay, what curtains is somebody going to change into? What wallpaper do they need? Are they moving into a new house? All the little stuff that means absolutely nothing. You start to get to the big questions. Where am I right now? Where have I come from? And where do I want to go? And how do I get there? That's the most important thing. How do I get there? And am I on the right path now to get to where I'm going? Or do I need to change that trajectory so that I can just literally change a few percentage the trajectory in order to go on the right path, and then put all my effort and all my energy and all my thought and get completely obsessed with just building those habits, building those consecutive days and making it happen. So stop, if you get anything from this video, it's just a joke. If I look at mine now, I don't regret it because it's all real stuff, but it's the best of what I'm showing the best of me. And so in a way, that's kind of, you've got to be able to see that is just the best of somebody's life. So when you're seeing somebody like flying around in a Ferrari, of course you're seeing them flying around in, and that's their highlight reel. You're not seeing the days that business person has spent 70, 80 hours a week in the office earning no money because they're trying to get a business off the ground. So just give yourself a reality check. Like, where am I right now? Where do I want to be? How do I get there? Stop comparing yourself, yeah.